Hi, I'm Joshua Lindsay. This is a reflection on the agony in the garden, something that I feel like I have a specific share in with my disability. My primary disability is cerebral palsy. Now, some in the disability community and outside of the disability community might disagree with me, but particularly within the more liberal factions of the disability community might think that I ascribe too much importance to my disability, but this is just my reflection upon my disability and its place in God's plan for salvation. And I do not say that I have any part in that salvation because it is only Jesus, but I believe that we can reflect the salvation of Jesus Christ in our bodies, and we can imitate his salvation so that we cannot effect the salvation, but we can imitate the salvation and show the effect of it in our bodies. And so I believe that the agony in the garden is when he took on the sin of man, and I in my body am somewhat a reflection of that consternation and frustration that he felt within his body. Now, I'm not saying that I suffer all the time, and part of my life is definitely joyful, and so I would not say that all of my life is suffering and all of my life is a bad day or a bad time, but I would definitely say that you can see in my body the disabilities and the trials that I have, whether they're projected onto me or whether I'm really having them. And I also feel that when I can't explain to people what's going on with my bodies, especially people that are not in the disability community, or people that do not have cerebral palsy, or people that view cerebral palsy as something positive or different than my experience. Um, 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 I believe that the frustration that comes from that is a share in the agony of the garden because God was alone and could not share his his feeling with anybody, and though he tried to put it into words and tried to express to his disciples and tried to reach out to his disciples to tell them what it was like, no one could understand what taking on the sins of the world would be like. And besides that, the disciples had fallen asleep and they did not care about what he was going through. And so I think that the frustration that I feel, and especially those people that cannot speak and um, have to struggle with their words or cannot speak at all, um, they experience the frustration that God had in the agony in the garden, but the consolation that we have is that the angels um, ministered to God in the Garden of Gethsemane. So I don't think that he was alone. I think that we have angels and people praying for us, especially now in the modern church. We have angels and saints praying for us, so we're not alone. But we do have a unique opportunity to reflect the agony in the garden. And although I'm very seldom in agony, I can say that I share in the consternation of Jesus because I feel certain things in my body and experience certain things in my life that people outside of the disability community or those people that have lesser disabilities than I have, or even people that seem to have the same disability but no two people with disability are exactly the same. I believe that um, I have the frustration of not being able to explain what's in my body. Now, if I was not able to speak or again had a board, I would be even more frustrated. But um, that is the way that we can reflect embodied in ourselves the salvation that God brought through the agony in the garden and his ensuing passion, death, and resurrection, which should not be separated, but should be taken as a whole uh, to effect the salvation. And one more time, I would like to say that I do not think that I effect the salvation, but I can reflect and imitate the salvation, specifically the agony in the garden, because of my unique position as a disabled person and as a fairly severely disabled person in the world. You may comment below if you have anything to talk to me about. And this again is not a Catholic sanctioned reflection or a Christian reflection necessarily based on any established theology, but it's just something that came to me prayerfully, just like my other reflection on the Eucharist and why God had to, or why God chose to um, offer Himself, body and blood, in the Eucharist before He was to suffer, which you can see in the video prior to this one. Thank you. Have a good night.